It's time for our final session of the morning, but it's only day one. It's my pleasure to introduce Verbinnen's Nursery. They are a propagation and production nursery of native trees, shrubs, and herbaceous plants located in Southern Ontario. As a third-generation grower, Alex Verbinnen will be sharing 10 ideas their nursery has adopted, presenting on a variety of different methods, systems, and equipment solutions. Alex majored in horticulture, earning his bachelor's degree from the University of Guelph. Anyone who recalls a visit to the Verbinnen Nursery during the Niagara Conference of 2014 knows the research and attention they put into their propagation and growing, striving to develop the best possible plants for the industry. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me just get my presentation up. And here we go. All right. Yeah, once again, it's my great privilege to be with you and to share and to give back. We've been involved with IPPS, at least myself, for about 10 years. My grandfather was involved with IPPS. We still have his books here. And so we've learned so much through it, and just really happy now to share and give back and follow in that vision of to seek and share. So first, a little bit about us. As you've already heard from Shelby, that we specialize in growing native trees and shrubs and herbaceous plants. We're located here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, so north of the border. And I'm aware that most of our friends with us today are from south of the border. So kind of hello from Canada here. And I hope you enjoy these minutes we have together. So our markets, we sell primarily to naturalization landscapers, conservation authorities, municipalities, other nurseries. We sell plug liners, bare root seedlings, as well as container material, primarily 1 gallon, 2s and 3s, but a lot of 1 gallon material, and some 7s and 10s, etc. as well. So just a little bit about these 10 different grower good ideas. Scavenge that kind of term from a course we would have with other growers every year, where they're asked to present different ideas. And I tried to think of ones that would be more applicable, easy to adopt, and cover a variety of areas, because I'm sure we have quite a variety of listeners on with us today. And I didn't want to put forth 4 things that are very specific to us. So I wanted to cover a lot of ground and be pretty diverse. And as well, these ideas, we can't take credit for all of them. A lot of them are built on ideas that other people have had. And we just put them into practice as well, and then give credit to them and say, it's working great here. So just promoting other people's good ideas. So I will give credit where credit is due. So first off, we'll start in the office with an idea that we've had for a long time, but just continues to work so well for us. Is just rather than having a catalog or even an online catalog, we just put our availability list, which is a snapshot of our inventory at a given time, just posted online. It's password protected, but we readily share a password with those in the industry and our customers. And so we frequently update that snapshot so that at any time people can just access it, know what we've got, and then they can submit their orders accordingly with that information. There's not a lot of time spent talking over the phone of like, do you have this, and what's the price and quantity, and they can essentially do their shopping beforehand and then call or email, and they have all the details there in front of them, and there's just less room for error and makes it easier for our office staff. We're planning to revamp our website, and the next phase would involve having a fillable field next to that availability quantity. So you can just type in how much you want to place an order for, and then that would get sent as a form emailed to the office, and easily able to be input into the system as an order. So just saving more time. We're not live, but even these steps are just fantastic in making things smooth for us. A second idea that we've had in place for quite a while is just using a lot of different color tags. So we have 8 different colors possible. We use all 8. For us, we use them to represent different seed zones we have. So for a number of our customers, it matters where the seed comes from within Ontario. For example, blue would be zone 34, and that's the Greater Toronto area. Orange was zone 37, and that's the Niagara region. And so we just use those. It's really easy for our staff now to see, okay, well, I've got a pick list with, I need zone 37, and they're grabbing the right crop very easily. Or some of our customers in Sudbury we grow those seedlings on contract, so they kind of know the yellow ones are for these set customers, and it really helps to reduce error. Along with that, we have an ID code. We had thought, oh, we should implement an ID code, and we kind of thought, well, that's pretty complicated. How are we going to do it? How are we going to jive it with our inventory system? But it's actually a lot easier than you think, and we found that out pretty quickly too. Just kind of to give you an idea of what our ID code looks like, down in the bottom corner there, it just starts with the seed zone. Then the next value would be the format it begins with us. So if it's seed, it's an S. If it's B, it's bare root seedling that we purchased in as a liner. If it's P, it's a plug seedling we purchased in. The source would be the company we bought it from, or if it's C, the seed collector that collected that seed. And then finally, the last digit is the year it starts with us. So it's really helpful because, you know, a tree that we've got in a large container or here growing for quite a while, we can also track if it's got issues, or if it's had even good performance. We can go back to the seed collector and have notes on where that was collected, and helps us to solve inventory problems when you've got all that information. And it also just really gives customer confidence too. We're not just saying, well, it's whatever seed zone you want it to be. They can see clearly that we've got a track of where it comes from and how it came to us. So, and it's something that you can easily implement. You don't need it to jive with we didn't have to make it to jive with our inventory system. You could just have it a standalone and just kept as a code that goes with the tags as you bump it up. So that would work just fine. So here is more of just a way of thinking, and something that many of us have been doing, and looking at our processes and what can we do to just take a process that's kind of more a batch type system or independent worker, and getting that process moving. So I'm going to give you an example of one way we got one of our processes moving. It's just with our seeding. We still do hand seeding with the 200 species plus that we seed. There's just so much variety and so many different lots going out at different times. And we have a lot of, it's mainly deciduous seedlings or herbaceous seed that we sow. And sometimes it's multiple seeds per cell, depending on how well the germ test was. And so, but anyway, what I'm trying to focus on is we took this process that we would do on an individual basis, where people, you load up the conveyor, and you stop it, and then everyone sews a few trays, and you turn it on and unloads the belt. But we said, what will it take to keep this belt moving and not stopping? So we said it needs a few more people to make it happen. And so this is kind of what it looks like. It's pretty straightforward, but everyone takes a row, and we just keep it going until we're out of trays. There we let me see if I can play this. There we go. I hope it's coming through fine, but yeah, the belt doesn't stop. Some people are faster. The faster ones take 2 rows. And so it's a pretty straightforward idea of thinking. But the results this past year were just phenomenal, or last year when we put together the data. Looking at in 2019, we had $7,000 in labor savings just from doing it. Pretty much 80% of our seeding was just had that belt constantly moving. It meant we need to pull a few more people to make it happen. And our trays per man hour more than doubled. So what I'm putting forward is just, you know, we're starting to think, what else can we just get moving? What else can we put process to? And just encouragement, again, as many of you have already thought about this. So what else can we get moving? So number 4 kind of goes back to last year when we called it, we wanted to really have some important thought of how we can reduce our staking. We called it our war against staking, because we know that staking was costing us a lot of money, and it really wasn't helping us in any way. It was only hurting us in many ways. So what can we do to grow plants where they wouldn't need a stake, increase their caliper? And so, of course, to try and work in that area, we need to do some research. And we found this fantastic article by who other than Dr. Whitcomb, and where else than in the IPPS proceedings. So in this case, it was from the proceedings in 2000. And so it was really key that got us thinking, him talking about how the older leaves are the ones that are responsible for for caliper development. And so we put that into practice, into thought in containers where we were meaning to, but then it got us thinking about in propagation too. Oh yeah, those skinny ones, they're always seem to have like the lower canopy, the leaves are falling off early. So where we applied this in propagation was to, we have situations like this in the springtime where you have high density and you're just wondering, okay, we're always spacing these way too late. And how can we, you don't want to space them too early because you're busy doing other things generally and you need the space, but when can you make that decision for that threshold? When do I space these? And so it brought forward this thought of we are going to tend to the lower leaves. So we are going to watch the lower leaves as their indicators. We don't want them to yellow or to become inefficient. We're going to keep them healthy. And that's the threshold. That's the area that we look at for making that decision of when to space. And I can tell you that's really worked out for us in terms of our decision making on spacing here at the greenhouse. So for number 5, perhaps you're like us and you have a number of different systems with interchangeable nozzles for sprinklers. And I just want to start out with a quote from I've heard a few times from Keith Osborne, and he credits it to a grower that he knew of, just saying your profit is in the hands of the person at the end of the hose. And it's interesting to think about that. And there is much truth. We all know that how you water your plants has a big, perhaps the biggest impact on the quality of your plants. And so maybe you're like us and you've been using sprinklers like this for a long time. And yeah, you knew, or maybe you didn't know that the nozzles were interchangeable. But we'd been using them for a long time, not changing the nozzles. Everything was blue, maybe a few yellows in there. But last year and this year, we made it a point that we are going to be more diligent with this, and it's been really working out well. You know that with our blocks, we don't have huge bays of all the same species. Sometimes 20 or even 30 different species within a bay, and you know they're not all the same water requirements. They don't. Some grow faster, and you're always watering to the ones with the highest need. You cut some back, and the water need drops. So, you know, with the different nozzles, you can see just the spectrum from 2.5 to 7 gallons a minute. You can have quite a range. So just meeting the needs of what they need in the block has proved very helpful for us. And we're just going to keep going with it. And so that's why the irrigator carries around this small little handy box. It's got all different colored nozzles in it. It's in his golf cart, and it reminds him of the different output. And then, of course, with as you see in many places, just a ball valve to shut off the sprinklers when there's nothing there. And then we've got a quick coupler below it, because these plastic sprinklers, when the weather gets cold, they get kind of brittle. And so we just bring everything inside. So we just pack it away in bulk trays and gently take care of them. They don't last as long as the brass ones, but they're like half to a third in price. So in areas where, like in propagation, where we just need more attention to customizing the water volume, that's where we use these. Jumping now to an idea in greenhouse safety. So we do a fair amount of poly on, poly off, shade cloth on, shade cloth off here. And working at heights has always been a concern for us, making sure our staff is safe. And so this was an idea that one of the managers here came up with. It's really just simple and straightforward. And what it looks like is it's just an aircraft cable that is properly fastened at both ends of the gutter, and that you can latch into with a harness. And so I should say right away that we have not tested it, thankfully. We don't really want to test it, but we're confident by its strength and how it'll work. There's been no third-party testing that's been done on this, but it's so when the greatest risk, of course, is because everyone's walking between bows that are open. So if anyone did fall between the bows, you've got the bows there to support against the wire, to hold the wire, and the harness will do its job. So just a simple idea that's made things better here. Another idea, this is nothing new. This is actually a really old conversation that's been going on for a while, but I'm going to reinforce how well it's worked for us. Switching from incorporating our controlled release fertilizer to subdressing it. So subdressing being having it underneath the weed mulch layer, or if you had cocoa mats underneath the cocoa mats. It's been really good for helping with more efficient use of the nutrients. So we've always been using kind of the bag, you know, between low to medium rate. And of course, with those high use species like dogwood or 9-bark or willows, once you've got a very dry summer, you've got a lot of water going on, they're needing a lot more nutrients, and they're not getting it. So they're starting to look a little deficient. And so when we switched to subdressing, we didn't see that anymore. We didn't change the rate of nutrients that were going on. It was the same rate, but we didn't have any issues. And we didn't have to pull out the green elves to start top dressing plants that were already potted that spring, and it's August. And so that just testifies to, from our experience, of better nutrient use. There's been plenty of information on how that is true, better efficient nutrient use. Here's an example of some local research done by our provincial nursery crop specialist back in 2015, and Janine West as well. And although subdress isn't on here, it's very similar to top dress and dibble, and you can just see compared to incorporated that you're not losing as much nutrients at the bottom of the pot. And of course, the other great benefits are you can just adjust the rate on the fly. You're not fixed to whatever the rate is or the type of fertilizer it is in the pile. You don't have to do the work of incorporating it yourself or pay for incorporation to happen, and no concern of the pile getting so hot and being there for so long that you've got a early release of your CRF and your media. So just reinforcing that's really worked well for us. Number 8, bulb trays is, I'm just going to show you a variety of ways that we use this at our nursery. It's been really interesting to see, as when we used to use bulb trays for a few things, and now it's just growing more and more and finding all these different uses. So they are really handy. They're available for relatively cheap, and the secondhand, because we have a lot of importing of bulbs, and so we get more and more every year. Here's a number of different areas that we use them. We use them just as you've probably seen this in places. We love it just as a way to keep a plant space. So you got either a high density or a medium density there spacing option. Really easy to carry for anyone of any strength, just to grab a bulb tray and you've got 6 plants right there comfortably. When they're off the potting machine, they're going right into the trays. We store them with the spacer pots along with it, so we don't have to go find those. We just use them for edge protection for blowover as well, which is this crop here. It's only the edge ones that are in bulb trays, and so you can have the protection for wind blowover as long as you've got those edge ones standing strong. It protects against moderately high winds, of course not the gale force ones, but we grow in them. So this is just a holder tray for our deep 4-inch core pots. And we grow on them. So we wanted air pruning, so we just have a quick floor there to get the air underneath. Or for example, in the greenhouse and propagation, we've got these trays. We had issues with this species having issues with root disease, and we knew that getting it off the floor was going to help us. So we said, well, are we going to build some benches? How about let's just put some bulb trays down? So just a myriad of different uses for that product. And that's for us. You guys have your own systems, and maybe you can think of ideas, but excellent, handy little tray. Oh yeah, and here we go. So we pack all of our plugs in bulb trays as well for winter storage. And number 9 is our plug to field transplant system. So we've been doing this for about two decades already, and still just haven't looked back. Just love it. It's very similar to what we've got what the field veggie growers do around here. So just laying the plastic mulch down. This is an old picture. This unit here has now 2 spools that put the drip tape on right underneath at the same time. We have experimented with biodegradable mulch, and at that time it didn't work so well for us, but we've been hearing that there's great advancements in those products. So we're excited next year to give some try to biodegradable mulch and see how that goes. So then, yeah, here's how it looks with the drip tape underneath. You need a good driver to put this down without punching the drip tape, but we have good drivers. So as far as the plugs, we are seeding those in the greenhouse in March and April. Sometimes it's we're doing multi-sow, and to get several shrubs in a plug, and popping those in the ground with a water wheel transplanter, as you can see here, usually in June or July. We also use the same type of system for our tree whips. Those are larger plugs going in on a 2-row layout. That's what it kind of looks like there. And then back to our shrubs. This is what it would look like in September. Those same shrubs we put in July, June, July. There's a good spacing that we have, and so as a result, we get good shrubby plants. It's easy once the leaves fall off just to lift that plastic off and get the lifting done. So overall, we find we get what we call landscape ready plants. It's like a 3-gallon pot without the pot on the bottom, right? It's a nice shrubby plant. Obviously, far less weeding labor. That's the main crux of why we do it. We here in Canada, we don't have the same palette of herbicides, pre-emergent or selective herbicides that there is in the States, and so this has really worked well for us. And then as far as far less water usage, we were using the overhead systems before, and with the drip tape, as you would know, it's just phenomenal. As well as we can fertigate in the lines as well. We were doing some fall priming this year, seeing how that works, and yeah, excited to test that out. So this last number 10 is actually a selection of a number of things, just cool little things or things that we want to reinforce work really well. So it's just a barrage of a few ideas. The first one is Melissa Spearing recommended that we give this a try. All it is a small sensor, can fit in your palm, and it's Bluetooth, it's a data logger. So it's really nice to be able to check the live status in an environment. You don't have to go into it, or I don't have to change the environment by opening it. For example, this spring where we had some heavy frosts, and we covered it with some herbaceous stuff with multiple blankets, and I wanted to know, was it actually working, because it was pretty cold out. And so I had this underneath, and all I needed to do was walk by, or at 10 o'clock at night, drive close by and with Bluetooth pick up on what the current status is under the blanket there, and then go to bed at night, and then in the morning you can see what really happened. So neat little handy tool. Just it's easy to lose. That's why I have an internet image up here, because I've happened to misplace ours. It might still be somewhere where I'm not sure where I was testing last. Just really liking a good trailer sprayer. So we have a bigger sprayer that we use, but with our IPM program, there's just a lot of small treatments we got to do, and so a really nice trailer sprayer makes it so easy to do batch applications or treatments, or so this is one. There's a couple other manufacturers. Perhaps this is a local manufacturer, and the key was a diaphragm pump. So it gives you a lot of pressure, but also a lot of flow. So it's not cheap, but you can see here we're using it for, we started using it this year for micronutrient drenching. I think this might be actually iron sulfate drenching here. You can see from this picture that you get quite a bit of flow. It's not just like you're doing one tray at a time. It's essentially like turning a hose nozzle on. So really, really happy with a good quality trailer sprayer. We're using it a lot more than we thought we would for a lot of different applications. So just want to share our happiness with that. If you need some automation in an area you don't have current power to, so to control an irrigation line, maybe you have constant pressure like we did in this area, but you just don't have any automated irrigation running near there to tap into. So these nodes have just been fantastic. They run off a 9-volt battery, and you can put an irrigation program into it. You can control up to 4 valves on a single node if you want. So a grouping of valves in an area. So it just brings some automation to area that you don't already have it very easily. Another idea we just loved this past year was just many have done it, and we just enjoyed using it this year, was putting to use retired reefer trailers or retired trailers. So we needed a quick pump room for a new electric pump that we were putting in, and so we dropped this in place, and in no time at all, it's made it into a pump room. It's fully insulated and made out of aluminum, so we don't have to concern of rust here. So, and just finally, some things that we're interested in trying out. We just put in these new bays, and we wanted to see how they operate for us. Airfood is the company that put them in. So essentially, it's a fabric covered growing floor with a gravel layer to help with drainage. But the real key is that they're suitable for driving on with pot moving equipment. So that's just thinking of the future. We don't have pot moving equipment yet, but we wanted good growing floors with options for that in the future. They also designed a new irrigation system for us that they say has 95% coverage uniformity, which is a lot better than what we know our conventional systems are getting. And so we're going to go head to head. There's 2 bays that have their irrigation system and 2 bays with our conventional systems, and we'll see how we like it. So that's a picture of the nozzles. We're interested in trying this out. If you want to know how it goes, just send me an email. And then the true picture at the end, just to close it off, was that, you know, for all these ideas, there's probably 10 bad ideas or things that didn't work out to get these good ideas. And I hope some of them you would find helpful or interesting. And then as I was just going about it, thinking about what can I really say that speaks of how we do and what we do. And there's one thing that just kept coming to mind overall through the whole thing was, if you get to know us here, is that the relationship model is first God and second employees and third business. And that just shapes everything. It's this decision has the most profound impact on how we operate. It moves to all levels with integrity and honesty and uprightness and consideration for employees. They're not just an asset. They are our greatest asset, but they're not just an asset. They're people and their families, and everyone's local here, and we really appreciate, and that's the beauty of bringing that into all levels, as well as with our business, with our customer relationships and our supplier relationships. We bring it down to all levels on that standard of integrity, and that's been a fantastic blessing for all of us. So I think I've used up most of my time. Yeah, thank you very much. Can I take any questions?
Alex, thank you so much. Obviously, some really great tips for any grower, and probably anybody that's here. We have a lot of questions. We'll try to get through a few of them in the order they were received. Going back to your irrigation nozzle tip about color coding and everything, how quick and easy is it to change out those nozzles?
It's really easy. And you do kind of get the hang of it. The first time you try, it might be a little bit stubborn, but once you get the hang of it, it just takes not even a second to pop it out and put a new one in.
Awesome. Back to your bulb crates. Do you disinfect the bulb crates in between crops? Do you see any need for this? Is it crop by crop basis?
We do not. We haven't seen a need for it, but I would assume, depending on what you're going to use it for, I think you would want to consider disinfection if you, yeah.
All right. 2 questions about vermin. Any issues with mice or anything damaging roots when you lift the plants up with the bulb trays? And then any issues with rabbits and drip lines or any leaks, things like that?
Yeah. Well, the first one, yeah, we do have issues with mice every year. We found that if we're really early on our approach for rodent control, we do use mouse bait and poison. If we start early in August, it's a lot better. So, and not specific to the one area of production or not. So I don't think lifting them off with bulb trays, it really makes a difference in terms of less mouse damage. And then to the drip lines and the drip irrigation, not in the field drip, if that's what you're referring to. We don't have issues with rabbits. We do have issues with rabbits chewing on the lines in like our the ones with spray stakes or dripper tubes on the bigger pots.
Okay. What prop trays are you using for seeding? And then are those cells lined individually?
Yes, we're using, it's called an IPL 25 tray, or I think they might term it as the Rigi pot tray. It's 25 cells, and we do line it. For shrubs, we line it with a peat pot. For our trees, because root structure is important for us. We line it with a core pot that we find does a really good job for air pruning. And then some species we just don't use a liner at all. It just goes straight in the tray.
Excellent. All right. I think our last question, how much less weeding in terms of percentage did you realize with the plastic rows versus open field?
Wow. I'd have to ask my dad for numbers, but I'm just going to say it's a lot. We had a crew of people that would that was their summer job. It was weeding. Once you finish the bed, by the time you finish the last bed, you got to go back to the first bed because the weeds have grown that much already. And now we go in, say with 2-3 people, maybe 2-3 times for a couple of days each, just to kind of pull out what's growing in between beside the plants. Yeah. So
wow.
It's can't even compare.
Significant percentage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Alex. Great talk.
Thank you.